Okay, so Gradescope is an online grading tool that not only allows you to grade work submitted online, but it allows you to grade paper-based work that's been submitted to you as well. So it's going to allow you to grade all sorts of assignments, from exams and quizzes to online assignments. And we're going to see how that works during our training today, but also works very well for student uploaded work like homework, lab reports, book problems. In addition, it's also going to allow for the grading of programming assignments and bubble sheet exams or Scantron-like multiple choice exams. So as you can see, I'm inside my Gradescope account now. If you can't see my screen, please let me know. I need to change that. But I'm inside my Gradescope. Oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
We're good. We see you.
We're good. Okay, great. You're going to be accessing your Gradescope account through Canvas. And don't worry, it will still look just like this. But when you're inside your Gradescope account, down here in the bottom left, you have this account button and you have this little up arrow. If you click on either of these, there is a Getting Started guide. So if you just click on Getting Started, it'll take you to this page that has basically a link to everything you're going to need to do inside Gradescope. And each one of these links includes a video as well as step-by-step instructions with screenshots. So a really great jumping off point for you and some helpful items for your students as well if you want to include links in Canvas or that type of thing. Now, again, I got to this Getting Started guide by going to the Account button down here or clicking the little up arrow and clicking on Getting Started guide. Now, before we jump into Gradescope and grading, what I want to talk about really quickly are the assignments that are available to you inside Gradescope. So these first two assignment types up top here, exam, quiz, and homework problem set. These actually have the exact same options inside them, but there are two different options for creating these assignments here. So you can create an exam or quiz, and the default when you create this is that it's going to create this templated fixed length assignment. And you can see this is an assignment type where we know our students where they're going to answer, right? We give them this, print this up, they handwrite in their answers in the given areas, and then we grade them. This might be something you hand out in class and they hand back to you, that type of thing. Or they print it up at home and they write in their answers and submit it back to Gradescope. Again, this is called a templated fixed length assignment because we know where our students are answering. We also have homework problem set or variable length assignments, and this is where students can just submit scratch paper, and you'll be able to see that scratch paper and grade their work. We also have bubble sheet assignments. Basically, you would create your bubble sheet answer key. You or your students can print up this template here, up to 200 questions. They would fill in their bubbles. Again, they can submit it online or hand it to you in class, and then you can grade them in Gradescope. If you're going to be using Gradescope in live classrooms where students are handing you their papers, really all you or your TA have to do is scan in those papers and create a giant PDF of all those submissions. So even if you had 50 students and they all gave you a one-page submission and you're holding 50 pages in your hand, you or your TA can actually scan those in and create one batch PDF, load those into Gradescope, and Gradescope will split them all into separate submissions and match up their names on their papers with the names on your roster. And it does this very easily using handwriting recognition and artificial intelligence, and it does it very well. So just keep that in mind. Even when you're in person in the classroom and students are handing you their papers, you can still continue to use Gradescope to grade. And you can load as many tests or quizzes or homework assignments in as many as your scanner can handle. So if it can handle 100 pages at a time, scan all 100 in there if you want to. Very easy to do. But that's the bubble sheet assignment. We also have programming assignments. If we have any folks that are interested in programming assignments, students can actually submit code in any Linux-based language. You can see their code. You can grade their code. You can add comments to any line of their code. You can use what we call our auto grader, which is basically where the instructor submits the correct code to Gradescope, and it uses that code to then check students automatically for failed tests. And it also comes with code similarity, where you actually can see side-by-side comparisons of those students in your course that submitted to that assignment. You can see that student A's lines 1 through 5 of their code match student B's lines 11 through 15 of their code. And they give you a side-by-side comparison of the two codes. And you can see overall similarity scores for those students in your course. So really great for anyone teaching programming assignment or using programming assignments. We also have online assignments. This is where students can actually answer questions live in Gradescope. Question types such as short answer, free response, multiple choice, select all, and file upload type questions. And then we also have an essay report. assignment tab. And this is where students can submit documents, PDFs, PowerPoints. You would be able to see their submissions. You can grade them, build rubrics, highlight their papers, and continue to grade them using Gradescope. And now that Gradescope is now owned by Turnitin functionality and similarity reports is something you can look forward to down the road in the future as well. Now, today we're going to create a variable length assignment and an online assignment if we've got time, and we'll run through those. For any other, any folks that are interested in bubble sheet or programming assignments, visit our help center or this getting started guide, like I mentioned before, and it will walk you through creating a bubble sheet assignment or creating a programming assignment and a bunch of great links and videos and step-by-step instructions on how to do that. Any questions so far before we jump into using Gradescope to grade? Remember, you can unmute yourself, or if you want to put it in chat, you can do that too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this course here and open that up. That's going to take me to my dashboard. My dashboard is going to show me all my active assignments. I also have an assignments tab. That's going to show me all of my assignments, not just the active ones. I also have a roster tab, an extensions tab, and of course settings tab. The extensions, this is if you need to give specific students extra time on a timed assignment. Maybe there's an assignment you created that's 60 minutes, but there's a student in your course that deserves 1.5 times, so 90 minutes. You can give specific students extra time through the extensions tab. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and jump into an assignment and show you how to use Gradescope to grade. The reason I like to start off with grading, it's probably where you're going to spend most of your time. It's probably the most exciting part about Gradescope, but also understanding how grading works helps you to understand your assignment options when we create assignments down the road here too. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this assignment here, my demo midterm, and I'm going to open that up. And now I'm inside my assignment. And you'll notice over here on the left, I'm at grading submissions. Oops, actually 1 second here. Let me do something really quick. There we go. I'm at grading submissions. When we create a brand new assignment, we actually start with editing our outline and we move through these steps. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but don't worry. We're going to come back and cover these steps here. But when it's time to grade, I can actually see all the questions in my assignment. So each of these is a question in my assignment. So all I need to do is click on that question to get started. And at this point, what we're assuming, or what has happened, is my students have printed up my quiz. They hand wrote in their answers, or they used a tablet and stylus and wrote in their answers that way. Then they submitted it back to Gradescope, and now we're ready to grade them. So all I need to do to get started is choose the question I want to start grading and click on it, and I'll open that up. And here's my students, my first student's answer. You'll notice we're looking at their handwritten work. And if I zoom out down here using my zoom in, zoom out buttons, I can actually zoom out and see more area of the page. The reason it zoomed in on this area is because this is a templated fixed length assignment. I knew they were going to answer in this area because I gave them that area to answer. So when I created my assignment during the edit outline portion, I created this box so the system will zoom in on that area. So I don't have to go hunting for answers or flipping through pages. It will automatically move me around as I'm grading each question. For a variable length assignment or scratch paper, you would just see the entire page all at once. It wouldn't zoom in on an area because a variable length scratch paper type assignment, we wouldn't know where students are going to answer. Some students might submit 5 pages, another 10 pages. So only for templated fixed length assignments is it going to zoom in on that area. And only the instructor sees this area, right? The students, this doesn't actually appear on their paper. They don't see it. This is really just for us, so we don't have to go hunting for answers. Now, the default way that Gradescope is going to have you grade is you're going to grade the same answer for the same question for every student. And then you'll move on to the next question. And the feedback we get there is it really helps to speed up the grading process, but it also helps to ensure that you're grading students using the same criteria. If you do need to grade one student's entire assignment all at once, you can. The default way is that you're just going to grade the same answer for the same question for every student. If you need to move through questions, you can click this little drop down up here and I can move to the next question whenever I need to. But once you finish grading this question, it will move you on to the next question, and then you'll grade every student's answer that way too. Now, at this point, though, I'm ready to start grading. And I know this is a math question, and not everybody here teaches math. Rest assured, the grading functionality works exactly the same, regardless of the discipline you teach. And I'll show you some different examples from different disciplines here in a little bit. But at this point, the question is, what is the integral of x 1/2 x squared plus c is the correct answer. So to grade this student and give this student 3 out of 3 points, I'm going to click on this one here and take away 0 points. So I've now given them 3 out of 3 points. And down here in the bottom right, I can click next ungraded, and that moves me to my next student's answer. And you can see I've now graded 1 of 20 submissions. Now this student's missing the half. So over here on the right, I'm going to click add rubric item, and I'm going to type in there missing 1/2. And I'm going to say that that's worth missing 1 point. And just like before, now to grade this student, I'm going to click on that 2. I've scored them 2 out of 3. Down here in the bottom right, I'm going to click next ungraded and move to my next student's answer. Now I've graded 2 out of 20. And you'll notice that rubric's following me. So as I create my rubrics and I start moving through my students, my grading is going to become that much quicker because I already have those rubrics created. Now this student answered it correctly. So again, I could just click on 1 and click next ungraded, but I can also use keyboard shortcuts. Whatever number or letter is in the box next to your rubric, that's your keyboard shortcut. So if I just hit 1 on my keyboard, you can see I just scored them 3 out of 3. And the shortcut for next ungraded, if you hover over it, is Z. So if I just hit Z on my keyboard, it moves me to my next student's answer. I think we might have something there in the chat. Can we accommodate multiple graders? Great question, and absolutely. If you have multiple graders in here at once, it's no problem. They can grade. What's great about this next ungraded button here is that when they click on that, they will only see an answer that still needs to be graded. So they won't have to click through previously graded items. It's going to help them leapfrog over each other so they can grade that much quicker. In addition to that, in your roster, if you have loaded up sections in your roster, your TAs can actually choose which sections they want to grade. So rather than having them have to grade the entire course, if you'd rather have your TAs only grading certain sections, you can do that too. Okay, so now this student answered 1/2 x squared. They're missing the C. So over here on the right, I'm going to click add rubric item, and I'm going to type in there missing C. And I'm going to say that that too is worth missing 1 point. Now, I also have these helpful annotation buttons up here at the top. So if I click on this T, I can actually add a comment right inside their answer. So I could type in there missing C if I want to. And I can move this anywhere I want, and I can add as many comments as I want. And as I add comments, it'll start to save them for me in this little drop down so I can easily apply them whenever I want to. I can also use this little pencil icon, and I can write directly into the paper. If you're using a tablet and stylus, that's fine too. I also have a highlighting button. If I click on that, I can highlight any area I want. And I have an eraser button, so I can erase anything that I want as well. And students will be able to see this when they open up their graded assignment. I think there was something, oh, that was just some back and forth in there. Okay. Yeah, so very easy to add those comments. Over here on the right, if you scroll down here, you also have the ability to add submission-specific adjustments. So if I thought this student and this student alone deserved an extra 1/2 point, I could click in here and just type in 0.5, and now I've given this student an extra 1/2 point. And I can also add comments in this field if I wanted to say, please see me after class. Now students will be able to see this when they open up their graded assignment as well. And as I add comments in this field, it'll start to save them for me in this dropdown so I can easily apply them to other students. If you ever need to delete a rubric, obviously you can click this little X. If you're ever curious just to which students did you apply a specific rubric to, you can click the little magnifying glass and it'll give you a list of all the students you applied that specific rubric to. And it will also give you a list of all the graders for that question. So if you were curious, how many students did my TA apply missing C to? You can see a list of those students, and you would also be able to see which graders graded these questions. So a great list for that magnifying glass there. The other thing I'll mention too is if once you've used Gradescope for a while, you have the ability to import previously created rubrics from your Gradescope account. So when I got started here, maybe I've reused this question in the past on a different assignment. I could have clicked import. I could go find that other assignment, and I could find that question I'm reusing, and I could import a rubric that I created in the past so that I don't have to start from scratch if I don't want to. So very easy to do there too. I think there was something in the chat. Let me just double check that. Okay. The other thing I'll mention here too is you might have noticed what we're using here is negative scoring. So our students are starting out with 3 points and we're taking away points for what they got incorrect. If you click on this rubric settings button here, I could actually change to positive scoring if I want. And now my students start off with 0 points and I give them points for what they got correct. And if you're using positive scoring, you can create negative rubric items. If you're using negative scoring, you can create positive rubric items. You just need to put a plus or a minus before the number when you create that rubric. If I click on that rubric settings button again, I can also control my score bound. So if I leave this checked, this question's worth 3 points. I can't give a student a score higher than 3. If I uncheck this box, I could give them extra credit if I want to. Likewise, with the floor check, they can't receive a score less than 0. If you want to be able to set these as your default, you can visit your course settings page and choose these as your default so that every time you start grading, you don't have to make changes if you don't want to. But at this point now, I've graded my student, I've added my comments. I'm going to go ahead and hit Z on my keyboard and move to my next student's answer. This student is missing the half and the C. So if I wanted to, I could click on both 2 and 3 and take away a point for the half and take away a point for the C. We have some instructors that create 10 to 15 rubric items and click on 6 to 8 of them to grade their student. It's completely up to you. But one thing that Gradescope also does is gives you statistics on how students answered. And I'll show you that here in a little bit. So what I want to do actually is I want to create a new rubric item just for those students who missed both in the same answer, because then I can also see statistics on that as well. So I'm going to type in there missing 1/2 and C. And I'm going to say that's actually worth missing all 3 points because I just don't think it's worth that much. So I'm going to go ahead and score them by clicking 4 or hitting 4 on my keyboard. And then I also want to tell them to see me after class. So I'll click on apply previously used comments, find that other comment, add that E in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and click next ungraded and move on to my next student's answer. Now this student is missing, or it didn't even attempt. So over here, I'm going to click add rubric item and I'm going to say did not attempt. That's worth missing all 3 points. Now you may have also noticed when you're creating your rubrics, you have some other options in here. So if I wanted to use LaTeX or LaTeX, I could click on this button here and it'll give me my $signs. And I could add in something like X squared if I wanted to. You can also bold, you can italicize, you can add code if you want to, and you can also add images. So maybe for those students that didn't attempt it, I want to include an image of the correct answer that I took with my phone, of just a piece of paper. I can click image, click select image, go back and find my answer and click upload. And what that's going to do is it's now going to add an image into that rubric for my students who didn't attempt. They can actually see the correct answer here if I wanted to. Now, when it comes to rubric visibility for students, the default is they'll see every rubric item you've created and they'll see how they were scored. You could also choose that they only see the rubric items you've applied to them, or you can choose that they see no rubric items at all and just their score. That's up to you. And that is something you can choose in your settings for your assignment. In this button down here in the bottom left. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and hit Z. Move to the next ungraded. This student got it correct, so I can just hit 1 for correct and then hit Z. This student's missing the C. I can hit 3 and Z. This student's missing the half and the C. And remember, I could have clicked on 2 rubric items to grade them. I decided to create 1 rubric item for statistical references later on. But at this point, maybe I have 200 students and I've already graded 100 and 50 of them have answered X squared. And I'm thinking, shoot, maybe I should have only taken away 2 points. They did get X squared after all. And if I was grading on paper by hand, I'd have to go back and find every single one of those submissions and make that change. But what's wonderful about Gradescope that's going to save you a ton of time is I can come in here and say, you know what, I'm just going to take away 2 points after all. And not only did it change it for this student, but it went back and changed it for every student you've already graded. So your rubrics aren't set in stone. As you continue to tinker with them, they will go back and update those students you've already graded. So a big, big time saver there. But at this point now I can hit Z. This student didn't attempt, so I'll hit 5 and Z. This student's missing the half and the C, 4 and Z. And you can see just how quickly I can start grading once I've built out my rubrics and I start using my keyboard shortcuts. So a big time saver once you got everything created. And if you have a student who does something like this, it's no problem. You have the ability to flip through their pages. So I can go find that extra page, that scratch paper. Here it is. I can see they got it correct. So I can hit 1 and next ungraded and just keep grading. So if they want to include scratch paper, just tell them to include it with their submission. It's no problem at all. Any questions about what we've just covered? Anything at all?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat.
All right. So the other thing I will mention, well, I'll show you really quickly. Again, if you click on that magnifying glass, for example, it'll show you a list of all the students you applied that submission or applied that rubric to, and it'll show you who graded it. So if you're curious which TAs of yours were grading certain questions and how they were scoring it, you can always click on that magnifying glass there too. There was a question, how do students submit work? We're going to cover that. I'm going to create some assignments and we'll submit to it. But basically for templated fixed length assignments, like what we just saw, they need to submit a PDF. For variable length assignments like scratch paper, they can submit images from their phone or a PDF. But I'll go into a little more detail about those submission options in here in a little bit. Now, once you've finished grading your submissions, it'll automatically move you to your review grades tab. One thing I want to point out here, students won't be able to see their graded assignment until you click this publish grades button. Once you click publish grades, now students can open up their graded assignment. Now they're only going to be able to open up and see it graded if you've graded all of their answers. So just something to keep in mind. You can always click unpublish if you want to pull it back. We have some instructors that don't want to publish it at all. They just want to use Gradescope to grade. They don't actually share it with their students. It's completely up to you. Once you have published those grades, you'll then receive a compose email to students button. And it'll allow you to send out an email to your students, letting them know that their assignment's been graded. You can edit any of these areas here. It'll include some statistics for you. If you want to get rid of them, you can. But a really easy way to send out an email letting them know they can now view their graded assignment. If you're using this in Canvas, you also have a post grades to Canvas button. If you've created an assignment and you've linked your Gradescope assignment to your Canvas assignment, you can then post your grades and it will sync your Gradescope grades into your Canvas gradebook for you. You can also download grades if you want to create a CSV or an Excel sheet. You can export evaluations, which includes the marked rubrics for each question, and you can export submissions, including all their grading information as well. Let's see here. A question, I'm curious how this applies to longer form assignments like essays, and how does it integrate into LMS systems like Learning Suite or Canvas? So we will touch a little bit on the Canvas integration. I can show you a little bit to that, but we also have really great step-by-step instructions with screenshots for you as well for Canvas. As far as applying to essays, we do have an essay assignment type like we talked about earlier. So students can submit an essay, they can submit a paper, you would be able to see it, you can highlight, you can create rubrics, and you can continue to use it. So for example, let me actually go back and I'll show you really quickly from another course here, this assignment. And let me just check something really quick here. Okay. So here's an essay example. And here's a paper that this student submitted. I can highlight, I can add comments, I can create my rubrics, I can create groups of rubrics. I have a pop-out field where I can see my rubric and I can score them. I can allow myself to choose multiple areas of the rubric, or I can actually choose to only select one item of the rubric. But this is what a graded essay assignment would look like, and the rubric availability that you can create. And in this case, I created a group of rubrics here for each of these areas. Okay, so let me head back. The next thing I'll show you here, and you can look at this anytime you want if you go to gradescope.com, but if you scroll down a little bit, here are just some different examples from some different disciplines. So here's an example of a paper-based assignment in computer science. Here's an example of physics. This instructor created rubrics using positive scoring and clicking on multiple rubric items to grade their student. Here's another example of math. This instructor adding LaTeX or LaTeX in there. Here's an example of chemistry. If you have students creating charts or diagrams, you would still be able to see them. You can still create rubrics. This is an instructor used positive scoring with a negative rubric item in there. Here's an example of biology and an essay answer, right? And you can still obviously see it and grade it. Here's an example of engineering, a pretty in-depth question, a pretty lengthy rubric with a mix of positive and negative scoring. Here's an example of economics. This student obviously had to create a graph. This instructor used partial scoring to be very specific with their grading. The last thing I'll show really quickly here, programming projects for anyone who's interested. Here's an example of calculator code submitted in Python by a student. This instructor used the auto grader to automatically check for failed tests, but also used manual grading to check the students on or grade the students on style. And you can add comments into any line of that code, like I mentioned. And like I mentioned earlier, it also comes with code similarity, where you would actually be able to see a side-by-side comparison of student A's code and student B's code and how they matched up. And this is the programming assignments in our guides with step-by-step instructions for you and screenshots. Mike added an additional chat in there that you also have advanced integration through Learning Suite. So if you're interested at the CTL, they can help you with that. Basically, you create an assignment in Learning Suite or Canvas that is then linked to the assignment that you create in the Gradescope tool. Okay, so let's jump over now and let's take a look at what students see. So I'm in my student account now. I'm going to go ahead and click on that and open it up. And here's my example here. So I can see as a student, I received 8.5 out of 12 points. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that and open it up. And here is my graded assignment. Over here, I can see how I scored in each question. So as a student, all I need to do is click on the question and open it up. I can see the rubric items. I can see why I received the grade that I did. If my instructor added any annotations or comments, I can see that too. And as a student, I can just click through each question and I can see my scoring. Now, there's also by default the ability for students to request a regrade. You can see there's a request regrade button here. Now, if I close out the question, you can see it grays out and tells me I need to select a question. We don't want students thinking, you know, I just need 3 points to get a B minus. I'm just going to go ahead and request a regrade for the assignment and hope for the best. No, they have to actually dig into the assignment, find the question they have an issue with, and then they can request a regrade once they've opened up the question. Now, if you don't want to allow regrade requests, don't worry, you can turn it off. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. But if they click on request regrade, they can put in their request and click request regrade. And that will send whoever graded the assignment an email letting them know they have a regrade request, and it will flag it for you in the instructor view. Here's an example of a regrade request that's gone through. So in this case, this student missed one of the 2 answers, so they missed the entire point. The student wrote, since I got one of them correct, could I get an extra half a point? The instructor wrote back, okay, I'll give you 0.5, and gave them an extra half a point. So very easy for the students to follow. Any questions about the student view before I jump over and show you how to access regrade requests? Please remember, if you're muted, you just need to unmute yourself. Okay. So let's jump back over to the instructor side. I'm going to jump into this course here. In your dashboard or in your assignments, either or, you have this regrades column here. If I had a live regrade request, I'd have a red circle with a number in it letting me know I have a regrade request and how many requests I have, in addition to the email that's sent out. And then all you need to do is click on that assignment and open it up. Over here on the left, we have regrade requests. All I need to do is click on that. It'll show me a list of all the students that have requested a regrade. All I need to do is click the review button. It'll take me directly to that question. I can click regrade requests. I can see their request. I can respond back to them. If I think they deserve extra points, I could give them a submission specific adjustment here like we saw before. If they've actually brought it to my attention that there was an error in grading and it affects more than just this one student, I can actually still come in here and change things. And not only will it change it for that student, but it will go back and change it for everybody. So another big time saver, if you have any errors in grading or just want to make a little change, it will still go back and change it for everyone. So very easy to do. And that's how easy it is to access those regrade requests. Now, if I go back to my regrade request button over here on the left, down here in the bottom right are my regrade request settings. If I click on that, here's where I can turn off regrade requests. I just need to uncheck that button and click save. And now that disappears for the students. Or I can choose a start date and an end date. Maybe I want to tell them whenever I give you back a graded assignment, you have 48 hours to dig into it and request a regrade. I can actually set up that window for them if I need to. But very, very easy to do. And that's it for regrade requests. So now the other thing I want to show you, under that regrade request button, you also have statistics like I mentioned earlier. So I apologize, but I am going to jump around on you here because I have better statistics in an assignment in a different course. But like I mentioned, underneath that, the regrade request button, we have statistics. So you can click on statistics. You can see how your students averaged on each question. You can see their minimum, median, maximum, mean, and standard deviation. Again, I can see how they averaged on each question. Over here on the left, if I actually click on a question, I can open that up and I can actually see how my students averaged on each rubric item as well. So maybe it points out something my students are struggling with, something I need to hit a little harder in lecture, that type of thing. In addition to the ability to see how they averaged on those rubric items, you also have the ability to add what we call tags. So for this question here, I created a chapter tag, a learning objective tag, a difficulty tag, and a discipline tag. To create a tag, all you need to do is click on the line underneath the question and just start typing. And it'll start saving those tags for you so you can easily apply them to other questions. But once you've created your tags, if we scroll back up here to the top right corner and click on this Show Tags button, we can actually see how our students averaged on those tagged items as well. So again, maybe there's something they're struggling with. Maybe you're dealing with accreditation and learning objectives. You can create any custom tags you'd like. So very easy to access those statistics. Any questions about anything we've covered so far before we talk about Canvas integration? So Mike, are you fairly familiar with the LTI 1.3 integration and the workflow?
In Learning Suite, yes.
Okay, so if I start going off, and I think it's pretty similar to our 1.11 integration, do you want me to go ahead and show this, and wherever I veer off, you can correct me?
That's fine, yeah. Okay.
So inside your Canvas course, this is where you're going to access and create your Gradescope accounts. So over here on the left, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you may see a Gradescope link. If you don't, you should be able to scroll down, click on Settings, go to the Navigation tab, and find your Gradescope link and move it up into your list of available pieces there, or options. And then click Save. Now, once you've done that, you now have a Gradescope course level link. So when you click on that Gradescope link that you've added, or if it's already there, when you click on this Gradescope link, it's going to automatically create you a Gradescope account based on the email address associated with your Canvas course. So at this point, it's automatically created me a Gradescope account. Now it's asking me, do you want to create a brand new Gradescope course that is linked to your Canvas course? If you're an existing Gradescope user, you could also choose to link an existing Gradescope course you've created in the past. Most likely you're a new user and you're going to want to create a brand new Gradescope course. So go ahead and choose that button and click Link Course. So now what I've just done is I've clicked on this Gradescope link, which now created me a Gradescope account, and I created a brand new Gradescope course, and that's what I have here. So here's my Gradescope course in my brand new Gradescope account, and it's launched me into my course settings where I can see that my Gradescope course is now linked to my Canvas course. So at this point now, I can go to my roster tab. And in my roster tab inside my Gradescope account, I have a Sync Canvas Roster button. All I need to do is click Sync Canvas Roster. I have one option here, email notification. If I leave this checked and click Sync Roster, it's going to send an email to all the students or all the individuals on my roster. It'll send them an email letting them know they've been added to my Gradescope course. If you're fine with that, go ahead and click Sync Roster. If you don't want to send out that email, just uncheck it. You can send it out later if you want to. Or maybe you're not using Gradescope for the first week and you don't want to send it out too early. You don't have to. Once you've chosen that option, just click Sync Roster and it's going to pull over all the individuals from your Gradescope or your Canvas course. Now, this isn't automatic yet, so you're going to want to sync this, every day, every other day up until that add drop line, just to make sure you have the most up-to-date roster. But you can see it's now pulled over I only have one student, but it pulled over my student. If it happens to pull over an individual and you need to change their role in Gradescope, you can click this little drop down here and you can make them an instructor, a TA, or a reader. Instructors, TAs, and readers, they all have the same powers and abilities. Really, the only difference is instructors, their names are available to students. TAs and readers remain anonymous. But you can see I've added my student. My student is linked to my Canvas course. So now if I jump over as a student, here I am inside my student Canvas course. Now when my student clicks on that Gradescope link on the left-hand side, it is going to open up their Gradescope account. And it's letting them know your instructor hasn't created any assignments yet. And we haven't. It's brand new. We haven't done that. But that is a course level link for both you and your students. And at this point, if you're happy with that integration, you can be done. Now, keep in mind, this is only at the course level. If you want to allow Gradescope to push your grades for your assignments into your Canvas gradebook, you need to create a Canvas assignment and then link your Gradescope assignments to your Canvas assignments. That will allow that grade push and grade sync for you. So if I go back into my Canvas course, first, you can create your Canvas assignments first or your Gradescope assignments first. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to go into my Gradescope account. I'm going to click on assignments, and you'll create assignments as you go. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate or copy an assignment really quick just to create something for us. So let me see here. Where's the one? There it is. That's the one I wanted. And I'll click duplicate, and now I have an assignment. So if I was to jump back over here and as a student now, if I click on my link as a student, now I have that one assignment that we just duplicated, right? So as we create, it will update them inside their Gradescope dashboard. Now I want to take this a step further. So I now have my assignment in Gradescope, but I need to create an assignment in Canvas and link the two. So all I need to do inside Canvas is click Add Assignment. I need to give this a name, call it Gradescope Homework Number 1. Very familiar, I'm sure you're very familiar with all the options available to you inside here. You'll want to make sure your Canvas assignment has the same point value as your Gradescope assignment. Because when it pushes those grades, it's going to push the number. So let's say my student received 49 out of 50 points in Gradescope, right? 98%, fantastic score. If I make my Canvas assignment worth 100, and I sync those grades, it's still only going to push over 49. Big difference between 49 out of 50 and 49 out of 100. So you're going to want to make sure that your Canvas assignments have the same point value as your Gradescope assignments. Now, the other thing that's important is I want to choose external tool from my submission type. And then I'm going to click Find. And then I'm going to find my Gradescope external tool. I can choose to load it in a new tab if I want to. And then I'm going to come down and click Save and Publish. You don't need to choose any dates because you're going to choose dates in Gradescope. If you want to choose dates so that it pops up in their Canvas calendar, you can. Just make sure your dates are the same. And then go ahead and click Save and Publish. So now I have a Canvas assignment and I also have a Gradescope assignment, but they still aren't linked. So what I need to do in Gradescope is click on my Gradescope assignment, open it up, and then I'm going to click on Settings. In my settings for my Gradescope assignment, I have a link button under Canvas assignment. All I need to do is click link. It's going to find me all of my Canvas assignments that I've created. And maybe I have 20 assignments. It would give me a list of 20, and I choose the one I want to link my Gradescope assignment with, and then click Link Assignment. And that's it. Now that I've linked those assignments, when I get to my Review Grades tab after grading them, now I can click Post Grades to Canvas, and it will push my Gradescope grades into that column in my Canvas gradebook for that Canvas assignment. And for students, now that I've done that and created an assignment, they still have the course level link available to them, but now they also have an assignment level link. So if they were to click on the assignment, they can click the Load Gradescope, and it will launch them directly into the submission page for that assignment because I created a linked assignment. If I don't link my assignments, when they click on the Gradescope link on the left, it'll launch them just into their dashboard, and then they can click on the assignment and submit to it. So creating that assignment level linking not only allows you to push grades, but it also saves the students one click, right? It'll take them right into the submission for that assignment rather than having to go through the dashboard in this link. But it's up to you if you want to have assignment level linking or course level linking. Any questions about that? Okay, now the other thing I'll mention here, and I'll include this in my follow-up with you as well. Oops, let me go back here to our help center. We have this LMS workflow page, and this is also available in your getting started guide inside your account, right? Don't forget about that. But it has instructions for you as Canvas instructors and Canvas for students. And it'll walk you through the integration. You are using LTI 1.3. So you would walk through this. These are the steps we just walked through, all very similar. The one thing you'd want to pay attention to is where it says LTI 1.3. It might be a little different than some of the other items they're showing for a different integration. As Canvas moves from LTI 1.0 to LTI 1.3, we're changing our integration along with them. But yeah, so I'll include this link as well. And then I think also, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, you can check in with your technology folks and they can help you with those integrations as well.
That's correct. And we can help you with Learning Suite or Canvas if you happen to be over there.
Yes, great. Thank you. Okay, so that takes us through creating your account, creating your course, creating your Canvas integration, all that good stuff. So now what I want to do is create some assignments with you and submit to those assignments as students. So I'm going to jump back over to my Gradescope account that we were in before. And I'm going to go ahead and jump into my course. And I'm going to click on my assignments tab. And inside your assignments tab, you have the create assignment button. And I'm going to go ahead and choose homework problem set. And we're going to create this variable length assignment here. And I'm going to go ahead and click next. I need to name this. I'm going to call it homework to delete because I need to delete it later, but obviously you'll name it whatever you'd like. And then we need to select a template, a PDF of our assignment. So if it was a quiz, it would just be a blank version of your quiz. In this case, it's homework. It's just a list of into problem chapters or list of problems from into chapter work. And you'll see what that looks like here in a second. So I need to click select PDF and I'm going to go find my homework template, which is just a list of into chapter questions. You have two options. Is the instructor going to load these or the student? Instructor is where students would be handing this to you in person in the classroom, and then you or your TA is going to scan them in, create a PDF of all their submissions and load it into Gradescope. What I'm going to talk about here today, though, is student submission. But just remember, even though you might be back in the classroom and you have a stack of papers in your hands, you can continue to use Gradescope, no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and click on student. Because my students are submitting, I've got a handful of options that I need to choose. I need to choose a start date or a release date and a release time. I need to choose a due date and a due time. I can allow late submissions and choose when to shut those down. I can enforce a time limit. If I want to say, once you open this assignment, you have 60 minutes to submit, I can do that too. My submission type, templated fixed length, that's where we know where our students are going to answer. Variable length, that's scratch paper. So I'm going to leave this as scratch paper because my assignment is just a list of into chapter questions, right? So they're just going to answer that on scratch paper. I can also enable group submissions. The way group submissions work is that one student submits. After they've submitted, they can then choose their group members from a list of class members. And then we have template visibility. If I check this box, when my students open this assignment, they'll be able to download this template and or print it up if they need to. If I don't check this box, they will not be able to access or download my template or my quiz or whatever I've loaded in there. And if I don't allow that, then I'd need to give it to them maybe through Canvas, or email it to them. But if you just check this box, they'll be able to download whatever you add as your template. And then I can click create assignment. Here's my list of into chapter questions. And you'll notice over here on the left, we're now at creating our outline. And creating your outline is really just another way of saying you need to create a question inside Gradescope for each question in your assignment. So over here on the right, I have a new question button. So I'm going to click new question. And my first question is, as you can see on the left, chapter 1, example 3. And I can give it a point value and say it's worth 3 points. If I want to create sub questions, I can by clicking this little plus sign. but I'm going to go through and create a question for each question on my assignment. And I'll leave the rest at 1 point since it's homework. And my last question is chapter 2, example 5. Now, if I wanted to create sub questions, I could take this and drag this over too, if I wanted to, or drag it back and make those changes. So you can always create sub questions if you need to. I think there was a question, so 1 second. Oh, thank you, Doug. Sorry, you got to go early. Be on the lookout for the follow-up email with the recording so you can watch the items you're missing today. But thank you for joining. Okay, so at this point, though, I've now created my outline. So I can click Save Outline. That's going to move me from editing my outline to managing submissions, but we don't have any submissions. But I will say, if you ever need to load a submission for a student, whenever you're in managing submissions, you can click Upload Submission, and you can load on behalf of a student and submit on behalf of a student if you need to. But what I'm going to do is jump back over to the student side, and we'll go ahead and submit to this assignment. So let me jump back into my dashboard as a student. Here's that homework to delete we just created. So as a student, I just need to click on it. If my instructor allowed me, I can download that template that they added. And I have two options for variable length assignments. I can submit images, but I have to submit an image for each question. So if there's 30 questions, that might be pretty time consuming, but they can submit an image for each question, and they have to for each question, because then the system will take you directly to that image rather than you having to flip through 10 pages of scratch paper looking for answers. So they would submit images if they want to, or they can submit a PDF. I'm going to go ahead and submit a PDF, and I'm going to go ahead and click Select PDF. And oops, sorry, I got to jump back here really quick. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to find my homework submission and click Upload. Now, there's one more step for the students. Because they're submitting scratch paper and we want to make this as easy as possible on you, we want the students to tell the system where their answers are, so you don't have to flip through 20 pages of scratch paper. We're asking them to select questions and pages to indicate where their responses are located. So all they need to do is say, okay, I'm going to click on question 1, my answer's on page 1. Question 2, my answer's on page 1. Question 3, my answer's on page 1 and 2. Question 4, my answer's on page 2. Now the system will take you directly to those pages they selected, so you don't have to go hunting for answers. If they load things upside down, they can rotate. If they load them out of order, they can move things around. Once they've assigned their pages, all they need to do is click Submit. It'll let them know they've submitted successfully. They can resubmit up until the due date. Here is my student submission of scratch paper. So now if we jump back over to the instructor side and I refresh my Managing Submissions tab, here's our student submission. If we move to grading submissions, here's each of those questions I created in the outline and my point values. Just like before, I just need to choose the question I want to grade by clicking on it. And I can see the entire page and I can see all the pages they selected, and I would continue to grade just like I normally do. So very easy to do. Now, one thing that comes up often is, what if my students do not have a printer or a scanner and they need to submit a PDF? This is a great guide. Again, this is available to you in your Getting Started guide that we talked about before in your account. But this allows students to download a free app to their phone. For iOS devices, it's called Scannable. For Android devices, it's called Genius Scan. But it allows them for free to convert images into PDFs that they can then submit. It works very well. It's very easy. We rarely, if ever, get any issues from students or instructors. My 14-year-old son uses it daily in his Canvas environment in high school. If they're already using an app that does this for free, no problem. They just have to submit a PDF. But these two we know work very well. So very easy for them to get around not having a scanner or a printer. In addition to that, in the near future, we'll also have a Gradescope app that students can download that will help them with those submissions and make it even easier than this is right here. But that's how easy it is for you to create a variable length assignment and for students to submit to it. Now, the other thing we'll do is we'll create an online assignment so I can show you how those work. So I'm going to go ahead and choose online assignment. I know it says beta. Don't worry, we're not in beta any longer. We left beta up there because we're adding new functionality pretty often. We didn't want that to confuse anybody, but rest assured we're not in beta. For that essay assignment type, we are still in beta. So if you don't see essay in your list of assignment options, you can email us at help@gradescope.com and we can add that in for you. But I'm going to go ahead and choose online assignment and I'm going to click next. And I need to name it, choose my start date and due date. These are all the same options we walked through. I've already created one to save us some time, but you'll fill out all your options and click create assignment. And that's going to move you into your outline for your online assignment. And that's going to have one blank question ready for you to go. Now, again, I've already created one to save us some time. And the question types available to you are short answer, free response, multiple choice, select all, and file upload. The system will automatically grade short answer, multiple choice, and select all. You would need to manually grade free response and file upload. Here's an example of a short answer question. Here's an example of multiple choice. Here's select all. Here's free response, and they have as much space in there as they want, and file upload. What's great about the file upload question is students can submit any file type they want, from a Word doc to a PowerPoint to Excel to .heic to an audio file or a video file, and you'll be able to see them and grade them. So let's recreate these so you can see how easy it is. And I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of blank questions here. So here is my blank question. And this is what you would see when you open up your outline for the first time, is a blank question and a blank question. As you build on the left, it renders on the right for you. So I need to give this a title, and I'll just call this capital. And you need to give it a point value, and you can see it updating over here on the right for me. I'm going to choose insert field and choose short answer. And this is how short answer loads up. Just the answer box and our answer field. Above that, I'm going to type in my question. So what is the capital of California? And in here, I'm going to put in the correct answer. And that's it. I've now created my short answer question. It will mark them incorrect if they misspell it. You can turn off case sensitivity. You can strip leading and trailing white space. You can even create answer ranges. If you wanted to say anywhere between 0.4 and 0.9 is correct, you can do that too. And I can also add explanation. So if I wanted to have an explanation pop up when they get it correct, over here on the left, I could give myself some space. I just need to add 2 brackets before and after my sentence. And now I've created an explanation that I can choose to have pop up if they get it correct. And I can also add multiple question types. So maybe I want to give myself some more space. I'll click insert field and choose free response. And this is how free response loads up, just an empty box. And above that, I'll put in their question or prompt. I'll say, have you ever been there? How was it? And now they have both these questions to answer. Now, keep in mind, short answer by itself, it will be automatically graded. But since I added a question type that needs to be manually graded, now the whole thing needs to be manually graded. So just something to keep in mind. But that's how easy it is to create short answer and free response. So now let's recreate multiple choice. So here's my blank question. I'm going to give this a title, a point value. I'll click insert field and choose multiple choice. And here's how multiple choice loads up. I just need to add my question above it. You can include charts or diagrams if you want. I'm going to go in and change my answer options, obviously. I need to put the correct answer in here. Oops. I can create multiple answers, or more answers rather, by typing parentheses, space parentheses. Maybe purple. And I can even use LaTeX or LaTeX in here as well. So if I wanted to, I could add x squared. And now my students will be able to see that. I can also add images. If I want to give myself some space and click insert image, I can add an image of sky. So here's my image of sky. I'll click upload. Here's that image. Maybe it's a chemistry chart or an anatomy diagram. I can even make images my answer options if I want to. If you know how to use Markdown, you can add images through Markdown, and you can add YouTube videos through Markdown and then have your students answer those questions if you want to. But that's how easy it is to create multiple choice. Select all loads up the same way. It just uses brackets instead of parentheses, and you can have multiple answers. We saw how easy it is to create free response. And file upload just loads as a file upload button. and you can put your question or prompt above it. Once you've created all your questions, you can click Save Assignment. That'll move you to your Managing Submissions tab. Again, you can submit on behalf of a student if you want to, or you can take the quiz, practice it yourself. But at this point, let's jump back over to the student side and let's go ahead and submit to this. So in my dashboard, I'm going to find my online assignment. As a student, I just need to click on it. I can see I have 60 minutes from this day to this day. I have 60 minutes to complete it. All I need to do is click Start Assignment. Here, the timer's timing down for me in the top right corner. I just need to come in here and answer my questions. And I'll just come in and get some of these wrong really quick. But I would need to come in and answer everything I can. File upload, like I mentioned, they can load any file. They can just click Select File. I'll just add my homework submission. But I can preview my file if I want to. I can add as many files as I want to. And I would just answer all of my questions and then click Submit. Now that I've submitted, if we jump back over to the instructor side and I refresh my Managing Submissions page, here's our student submission. If we go to grading submissions, you can see it automatically graded my multiple choice, select all, and short answer questions. I need to manually grade free response and file upload. So I'll just click File Upload. I can see my student's file. If it's too large of a file, I might need to download it first, but I can see their images and I can continue to grade them just like I normally do. If my student misspelled that short answer, like I mentioned, it will mark them incorrect, but I can always override it if I need to. I also have an extensions tab at the assignment level if I need to give specific students extra time. And I also can view statistics, but if I go to my settings tab, this is where I can choose some of those other options, like my rubric visibility. Do I want them to see all rubrics or only the rubrics I've applied to them or no rubrics at all? Do I want to show answers after the due date? Do I want to show those explanations when students answer correctly? For short answer questions, do I want to strip leading and trailing white space or turn off case sensitivity? And then we're also in beta for our lockdown browser powered by Respondus. If you want to be part of that beta, just email us at help@gradescope.com and we can add this in there for you too. But that's how easy it is to create an online assignment. And that brings us to the end of our workshop today. And I'm happy to stay on as long as anybody has any questions, but I know a lot of you probably have to go. So let me just say thank you very much for your time. Be on the lookout for that follow-up email with a link to this recording. If you've got any questions after this, please just email help@gradescope.com and we'll get back to you very quickly with any answers you need. If you have any more questions, I'll stay on with you, but thank you everybody for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. We appreciate it. Looks like most everybody is signing off, saying goodbye, but
Okay.
We'll wait a second and see if anybody chimes up with a question, but
Sure.
thank you, everybody. Bruce, good to see you. Do you have any questions for Ryan, Bruce?
Nope, but thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your time. All right. Well, thank you too, Mike. I really appreciate your help with this.
No problem.